Hello everyone, today I am going to start with Right to Education Act, which is of 2009, and the Right to Education Act, which is an RTE Act, which is a very important legislation that marks a watershed in the education system. It had come in the form of a legislation and enactment, and it has making education a fundamental right in the country. Although education had always been important provision, or rather where we talk about whether it is about the directive principle or state policy, or it has been mentioned in the constitutional framework that free and compulsory education has to be provided, and the government had been emphasizing on the significance and importance of education, starting from the very basic, that is elementary education, till higher education. It is just not only talking about or it is not only focusing on the elementary part, but it also about the primary education. There had been a lot of measures, lot of policies, programs, a lot of schemes which has been initiated in order to strengthen the education system of a country, and through the means of policies, welfare measure schemes such as Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan or midday meal scheme or Operation Blackboard, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Ustad. There had been different schemes and welfare measures which is available for the general population, even for the minorities as well as for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, women, everyone. So education now has become a fundamental right. It is justiciable in the court, and not only the public sector, but the private sector also has certain reservation, as 25% of seats would be reserved for students coming from undeserved category, or underserved students coming from underserved category. So it was passed by the Act of Parliament in August 2009, and the Act came into force in 2010. It is, I would say that every child has this fundamental right of being educated, and through this legislation, through this enactment, the Right to Education Act of 2009, the 86th constitutional amendment inserted this Article 21A Indian Constitution, which specifically states that the state shall be providing, or the state would be instrumental in providing free and compulsory education to all children up to the age of 14 years in such a manner as it has been determined by law. As per this right, the right to education was made a fundamental right, and it was removed from the list of directive principles of state policy, and it is a consequential legislation which is envisaging about the 86th Amendment Act, and the act incorporates the word free in its title, that it means that nobody is held accountable, or rather nobody is about to any student who, girl child or a boy, or a male child or a female child, they are entitled to get this free education. No charges would be there in terms of its in terms of its admission fee and so on. So that is other than, so what it in its title, what it meant is that no child other than those admitted by his or her parents in a school not supported by the government is liable to pay any kind of fee or charges or expenses which may prevent him from getting education or from completing or pursuing the elementary education. So, and this act makes it obligatory on the part of the government to ensure admission, attendance as well as completion of elementary education by all children falling in the age bracket between of 6 to 14 years. So essentially this act ensures the free elementary education to all children in the economically weaker sections of the society. Particularly it focuses on the economically weaker sections, marginalized communities, girl child, as well as children coming from other vulnerable population. So it becomes mandatory that the child between age to 14 has a right to free and compulsory education, and this is stated as per the 86th Constitution Amendment Act via Article 21, and this government schools shall be providing free education to all children, and it will be managed by schools management committee, as well as private schools can admit the children with a 25% reservation in their respective schools or institutions without any admission fee or without charging any particular fee. So the National Commission for elementary education shall be constituted to monitor all aspects of elementary education, including equality and other important part of it. So, the major provisions of RTE, if you look into the major important provisions of RTE Act, is first of all, it is essential to understand that, or it becomes imperative that the Act has to provide free and compulsory education and to complete the elementary education in school within the neighborhood. So, it also focuses on it also focuses on reducing the dropout rate by making it mandatory that the school elementary education should be completed by a child. Then the Act makes it clear that compulsory education implies that it is an obligation on the part of the government to ensure that admission, attendance and completion of the elementary education of the child between the age of 16, between the age of 6 to 14 has to be done, has to be completed. And the word free indicates that no charge is payable by the child which may prevent him from pursuing or completing the education. Then the Act also provides for the admission of a non-admitted child to a class of his or her appropriate age. And that it also mentioned, then the Act also mentioned the duties of the respective governments, the local authorities and parents in ensuring that the education of the child is being smoothly conducted. And it also specifies that sharing of the financial burden between the central and the state government has to be equally dealt with. Then it specifies certain norms for pupil teacher ratios, infrastructure and buildings, as well as working days of the school and for all the teachers and for the teachers. It also says, the Act also outlines that there should be no urban-rural imbalance in teacher postings. The Act also provides for the prohibition of the employment of teachers for non-educational work other than census, elections and disaster relief work. The Act provides that the teacher appointed should be appropriately trained and qualified, and it prohibits mental harassment and physical punishment, any kind of physical punishment or any kind of mental harassment in the form of bullying, in the form of mentally or physically torturing or beating the child. Then screening procedures for the admission of the children, then capitation fees, private tuition by the teachers. Not only it is taken as to acquire knowledge and experience, but also it has become a hub of generating money, and so the teachers are not allowed to give any kind of private tuitions, particularly those belonging the government teachers. Then running schools with no recognition, it is offence that they should, whenever the school is being taken up, whether it's a private or particularly private education institution, there has to be registered under a certain body, whether it's they follow the CBSE pattern or the state recognition board. So there has to be some authority and there has to be some recognition and authority, some affiliation with a particular board. Then the Act envisages that the curriculum should be developed in coherence with the values enshrined in the Indian Constitution, and that which would take care of the ILRA and that which would take care of the all-round development of the child. The curriculum should be built on the knowledge of the child, on his or her potential and talents, help him make a child free of any kind of trauma or any kind of stress of education or capacity, fear and anxiety. Via a system has to be developed which makes a child, or rather the learning process, a more friendly, approachable and accessible one. It should be more child centric, and it should focus on the child's not only academic advancement, but also it should look into the overall holistic development of the child in terms of his mental strength, in terms of along with the physical part of it, physical strength. Then the significance of RTE Act. RTE Act is important because with the passing of the Right to Education Act, India has moved to a right-based approach towards towards implementing education for all, and this act casts a legal obligation on the state as well as on the central government to execute the fundamental rights of the child as per Article 21 of the Constitution. So it lays down specific standards for the student teacher ratio, which is very important concept in quality education. It also talks about providing separate toilet facilities for girls and boys, having adequate standards for providing quality education. The quality has to be maintained in these such in any education institutions. Then it talks it also talks about providing separate toilet urban the stress there has to be a teacher student ratio, which is very important to bring about equality and equity. Toilet facilities, the stress on avoiding urban rural imbalance in teachers posting, which is important, and there has been found a big gap in the quality and numbers regarding education in regarding imparting education in the village as compared to the urban areas in the country. Then there is a great disparity in terms of this urban rural concept, in the urban rural context, because usually it has been found that the teachers are inefficient or are less trained, or rather they sometimes procrastinate, and there is the attendance of the teachers, the presence of the teacher is at times dismissal at times it's quite low in the rural areas as compared to the urban areas. Then the Act provides zero tolerance against the harassment and discrimination of children. The prohibition of screening procedures for admission ensures that there would be no discrimination of the children on the basis of caste, religion, gender, etc. or socioeconomic status. So the Act also mandates that no kid is detained until class 8. So there is no strict measures of detaining a child due to harsh exams or due to harsh treatment towards the child in terms of qualifying a particular, or in terms of passing exams and moving on to the next class. So it is equally important, or it was an important feature of the Act, that no child should be detained till class 8. It introduced the continuous comprehensive evaluation system in 2009 to have grade appropriate learning outcomes in schools, and the Act also provides for the formation of a school management committee in every school in order to promote participatory democracy and governance in all elementary schools, and these committees, they have the authority to monitor the school's functioning and prepare developmental plans for it. Then the Act is justiciable and has a grievance redressal mechanism that permits people to take action when the provisions of the Act are not complied with. And the RTE Act mandates all private schools to reserve 25% of the seats for children from socially disadvantaged and economically backward sections, and this move is intended to boost social inclusion and pave the way for a more just and equitable society. The provision is included in section 12(1)(c) of the RTE Act, that all schools, private, unaided, aided or special category, must reserve 25% of their seats at the entry level of students for students from the economically weaker sections and disadvantaged groups. When the rough version of the Act was drafted in 2005, there was a lot of outcry in the country against a large percentage of seats reserved for the underprivileged. However, the framers of the draft stood their ground, and we were able to justify that 25% reservation in private schools was important. Then the provision is a far-reaching move and perhaps the most important step in as so far the inclusive education is concerned. It also seeks to achieve social integration. The loss incurred by the schools as a result of this would be reimbursed by the central government. In fact, the central government takes entire responsibility to look into the financial aspect. If there is any loss related to this 25% reservation, then the Act has increased enrollment in the upper primary level, that is 6 to 8, between 2009 and 2016 by 19.4%, and in rural areas in 2016 only 3.3% of children in the age of 6 to 14 years were out of school. Then there had been certain criticism of the Act, though the RTE Act is a step in the right direction towards the achievement of making education truly free and compulsory in India. It has met with several criticisms, and some of them are as follows. The Act was drafted hastily without much thought or consultation given to the quality of education imparted. Then children below 6 years are not covered under the Act. Then many of the schemes under the Act have been compared to the previous schemes on education, such as Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan and have been plagued with corruption charges and inefficiencies. There have been certain implementation hurdles in the 25% reservation of seats for the economically weaker sections and others in private schools. Some of the challenges in this regard are discriminatory behavior towards parents and difficulties experienced by students to fit in the different socio-cultural milieu. Then regarding the no detention policy till class 8, an amendment to the Act in 2019 introduced regular annual exams in classes 5 and 8. Then if in case a student fails in the annual exam, he or she should be given extra training and made to appear for a re-exam. If this re-examination is not passed, the student can be detained in the class. Then this amendment was made after many states complained that without regular exams, the learning levels of children could not be evaluated effectively. Then the states which were against this amendment were 6 states with high learning outcomes due to their effective implementation of the CEC system and as mandated in the Act. And these 6 states were Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Goa, Telangana and Maharashtra. It has been found that many states find it difficult to move to the CCE system of assessment. This is chiefly due to the lack of teachers training and orientation. Then another criticism level against this Act is that instead of increasing the standard and outcomes of the public education system in India, it passes the buck to private schools with some respect. Then making the right to education a fundamental right definitely took more than 6 decades after independence, and now the government along and all the stakeholders should focus on the quality of education and gradually move towards having a single educational system and platform across the country for all sections of society to foster equality, inclusion as well as unity. Then we will talk about the National Education Policy of 2020. The National Education Policy was introduced in 2020, introduced by the Government of India, represents a revolutionary shift in the educational framework of a country and aimed at meeting the demands of the 21st century. So, NEP 2020 envisions an inclusive, holistic and flexible education system that adapts to the dynamic needs of the society as well as the economy. And the policy is designed to foster critical thinking, creativity and innovation among students, preparing them for the challenges and opportunities of the future. At the International Institute for Population Sciences, we are proud to align with the visionary goals of National Education Policy 2020, and it has been a commitment to educational excellence and innovation, which reflects the core objective of this policy, which seeks to make education more accessible, equitable and relevant. Through a comprehensive approach that integrates technology, interdisciplinary learnings and experiential education, we are dedicated to ensuring the intellectual and personal growth of our students. Then the NEP 2020 encourages universities to become vibrant centers of learning, research and community engagement. At the International Institute for Population Sciences, this has been embraced. We embrace this informative agenda by continuously evolving a curriculum, After the RTE Act, now I am going to talk about the National Education Policy of 2020, and it was introduced by the Government of India. Represents a revolutionary shift in the education framework of the country. It aimed at meeting the demands of the 21st century, and NEP 2020 envisions an inclusive, holistic and flexible education system that adapts to the dynamic needs of the society as well as the economy. This policy is designed to foster critical thinking, creativity and innovation among students, preparing them for the challenges and opportunities of the future. In fact, NEP is a commitment to educational excellence and innovation, which reflects the core objectives of this policy making, education more accessible, equivalent as well as relevant. And through a comprehensive approach that integrates technology, interdisciplinary learning and experiential education, the government is dedicated to nurture the intellectual and personal growth of the students. In fact, the NEP 2020, it encourages universities to become more vibrant centers of learning, research and community engagement, and it has to be embraced by all universities, focusing on this on the transformative agenda by continuously evolving the course curriculum, pedagogy and institutional practices. It also fosters a culture of continuous improvement and excellence, and it aims to empower students with the knowledge, skills and values necessary to thrive in an ever changing global landscape. So, NEP particularly focuses on the overall holistic development of the child, and it is the entire structure has been revamped. It has been again the entire system has been changed in the education with the new education policy, starting from the very basic, that is the primary and the elementary education, the school system, coming from the school system to higher education, undergraduate, the undergraduate students, giving them as well as research part of it, giving the students ample opportunity to acquire knowledge from various other disciplines. They are not only confined or restricted to one discipline, and they have a lot of entry and exit points, which makes it the students to join a particular course. If he had discontinued the course due to certain reasons or to certain complexities, then he could easily be enrolled in the course from any part of the country. So, the Union Cabinet has approved the new education policy of 2020, which aims to introduce several challenges in the Indian education system from the school to the college level. It aims at making India a global knowledge of superpower. The cabinet also approved the renaming of the Ministry of Human Resource Development to the Ministry of Education, and then the new education policies, which has been cleared by the cabinet, it is the third major revamp of the framework of education in India since independence, and the two education policies were brought in 1968 and 86. The vision of the policy, if I look into the vision or of the policy, the National Education Policy envisions an education system rooted in Indian ethos that contributes directly to transform India, that is Bharat, sustainably into a more equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all and thereby making India a global knowledge superpower. The policy also envisages that the curriculum and pedagogy of an institution must develop among the students a deep sense of respect towards the fundamental duties and constitutional values, bonding with one's country, and a conscious awareness of one's roles and responsibilities in the changing world. The vision of the policy is to instill among the learners a deep rooted pride in being Indian, not only in thought but also in spirit, intellect and deeds, as well as to develop knowledge, skills, values and disposition that support responsible commitment to human rights, sustainable development and living and global well-being, thereby reflecting a truly global citizen. So, this vision reflects the intent of the policy, which is to develop Bharat-centric knowledge society, a society which has its roots in internal Bharatiya Sanskriti and looking forward to move with the world. Our value system, our traditional knowledge system, our commitment to humanity and sustainability are the key to promote and place us at the global knowledge gurus. So, with this NEP, the vision of the NEP is quite large and impressive, as it focuses on the values, the ethical responsibilities, accountability towards our constitution, towards our country's cultural ethos, and it also focuses on more of a to acquire knowledge in just not only in terms of rote learning, but it tends to develop critical thinking and honing the skills, looking into the holistic development of the child. There are certain principles of national education policy like flexibility. There has to be no hard separation between subjects, curricular and extracurricular activities. Multidisciplinary approach, multidisciplinary education has to be taken into consideration and process, and the strong public education system. These are the salient features of NEP. First of all, ensuring universal access at all levels of schooling from primary school to grade 12, then ensuring quality early childhood care and education for all children between 3 to 6 years. Then the new curriculum and pedagogical structure is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Then no hard separations between art and sciences, between curricular and extracurricular activities, between vocational and academic streams. Establishing national mission on foundational literacy and numeracy. Then emphasis is on promoting multilingualism and Indian languages. The medium of instruction until at least grade 5, preferably till grade and beyond, will be the home language or mother tongue or local language, regional language. Then assessment reforms, board exams on up to 2 occasions during any given school year, 1 main examination and 1 for improvement is if desired. Then setting up of a new national assistance, center, that is Parakh, performance assessment, review and analysis of knowledge for holistic development. Then equitable and inclusive education, the special emphasis has to be given on socially and economically weaker sections or disadvantaged groups. Then a separate gender inclusion fund and special education zones for disadvantaged regions and groups. Then robust and transparent processes for recruitment of teachers and merit based performances. Then ensuring availability of all resources through school complexes and clusters, setting up of state school standards authority, then exposure of vocational education in schools and higher education system, then increasing GER in higher education to 50%, then holistic and multidisciplinary education with multiple entry and exit options, then NTA to offer common entrance examinations for admissions to higher education institutions, then establishment of academic bank of credit, then setting up of multidisciplinary education and research universities, setting up of regional research foundations, light but tight regulations should be there, then single overarching umbrella body for promoting of higher education, for promotion of higher education sector, including teacher education, excluding medical and legal educations, the Higher Education Commission of India with independent bodies for standard setting, the General Education Council, funding higher education grants council, then accreditation like National Accreditation Council and regulation, National Higher Education Regulatory Councils were to be established. Then expansion of open and distance learning has to be to increase gross enrollment ratio, internationalization of education, then professional education will be an integral part of the higher education system, just not only talking about technical universities, health science universities, legal and agricultural institutes or universities. In these or other fields will aim to become multidisciplinary institutions. Then the teacher education 4-year integrated stage specific, subject specific Bachelor of Education, then establishing a national minority mission for establishing a national mission for mentoring, then a creation of an autonomous body, the National Education Technology Forum, to provide a platform for free exchange of ideas on the use of technology to enhance learning, assessment, planning, administration, and appropriate integration of technology at all levels of education, then achieving 100% youth and adult literacy, then multiple mechanisms with checks and balances will help in combating and stopping the commercialization of higher education, and all education institutions will be held to similar standards of audit and disclosure as a not-for-profit entity. Then the center and the states will work together to increase the public investment in education sector, that is to reach 6% of GDP at the earliest, and then strengthening of the Central Advisory Board of Education to ensure coordination to bring overall focuses on the quality education. Thus, these were the salient features. Although NEP 2020 heralds a new era in the Indian education system, focusing on holistic development, multidisciplinary learning, flexibility, technology integration, teacher empowerment, and assessment reforms, it also paves the way for for a student-centric, inclusive, and future-ready education system. By embracing the transformative changes brought about by NEP 2020, India is poised to nurture a generation of learners who are equipped with the necessary skills, knowledge, and competence to thrive in a rapidly changing world. So, it can be said there is a comprehensive NEP, the National Education Policy of 2020 is that education policy is a comprehensive set of guidelines and recommendations for the Indian education system. It aims to make education more inclusive, relevant, and engaging for all students, and to foster the development of critical thinking and problem solving skills. And by implementing these recommendations, the NEP aims to ensure that all students have the opportunity to receive a higher quality education and reach their full potential. The NEP represents a major shift in the way education is delivered, and it has the potential to bring significant benefits to the education system and to the overall country by creating a more viable human resource asset as well as human capital. And though it has faced a lot of criticism from students as well as educators and learners who are in the mid of the course, which should no longer be considered a degree, for example like MPhil. However, it will succeed. Its success will depend upon an effective implementation as well as adequate resources, and it will require continued effort and commitment from the government, educators, and the wider community. Thank you everyone. That's the end of today's lecture, National Education Policy.